My dear friends, it is the third talk of the Wisdom Training series. I decided to do it relatively quickly because when I listened to my second talk, I realized that because I put on myself this time constraint, I didn't really say everything which I intended. So it's a sequel of the second talk, hopefully not too long. By the way, I wanted to tell you that this, what you see, looks like only thing of gray. It is not true. They are colors. See how nice colors they could be. It is simply now is the current fashion of this rented apartment. Everything is whitish gray, wherever I look. My jacket is whitish, could be black. Shirt is sort of, is slightly. Oh, and my face is not completely yet gray. Anyway, enough is enough. Why I'm doing the third talk is simply because postpone the actual discussion of the process of training, because we have to be really convinced that it is worth of our effort. Because this training will require, in order to be useful, successful, it requires quite a bit of patience and persistence. Otherwise, it will be another entertainment. So in order, I have to show you that it's really important to undergo this unindoctrination of ourselves. Unindoctrination. We are indoctrinated. Now we need to unindoctrinate ourselves. And I choose as the topic which I touched in the last talk, but really touched, question of our indoctrination of necessity of dominating hierarchy. First of all, as I'm not repeating, I was painfully trying to show up on my site, but direct message is sometimes better, less politically correct. And I will talk about two things, which all of us know directly. It is our life as it is. Well, at one point each of us was a child. And we were born, as we were born, with our genetic inheritance, which was human. The ape genes are minority. We were human. Therefore, there was an innate wisdom, and it manifests instantly in us since we were born. Well, sucking the mother's nipple, it is, of course, genetic, but everything else already wasn't. The child didn't have a very warm welcome, was slapped at the bottom. At least in my times, it was to make it breathe, because supposedly it was a theory that it doesn't breathe. I think it is not true, but it was. And then underwent all sorts of things. But when it's born in clinic, all it open eyes was like in the room, white and gray and shiny. Well, somehow we survived. We survived because, of course, we were indoctrinated that the way it is. 1,000 years ago it was different. We still are human race survived. But now it is as it is because we are set so that it should be, and it will be so until we will decide that what is so is not so and replace it by another not so, and fiercely believe that the other so is better than this so. Anyway, during this, when we were born, quite smart, not on why one of the things, child are smart and inquisitive like hell, and smiling. Very often you say, oh, look, Sally smiled, or Jimmy, or whatever name, Zuzia, or whatever it could be, it depends on the name, smiled, and it happens very often. And we screamed like hell. Why? Who knows? Maybe something was hurting, maybe some embedded memories are awakening. We don't know, but so we are boom, 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 until we become quiet. And then we learn that it's very pleasant, this waving us and thing. So we learn to oversmart our keepers and scream, so they did it to us. Otherwise we refused to sleep. So we were pretty cunning, which is actually also the aspect of wisdom. Wisdom is not naive and sweet only. And we were inquisitive, but that was forbidden and verboten. We were said, no, don't ask so many questions, or when we already knew how to speak. Don't ask these questions, don't answer this question. Listen to what you are told. Don't ask questions, because we didn't have any answers for this child, because questions were simple, wise. So we learned not to ask too many questions, not to question too much, because we can get into trouble. And it was done by a rough manner or more modern manner. All of that, we were already by the time we were 5, we were indoctrinated pretty strongly. But that was not enough. Then we were studying our education system, which is one ongoing indoctrination. Since the children are already learned to be, hierarchy of domination is in them, so they get together, and it depends. Sometimes there is no attempt to dominate one another, sometimes it is. If they are happy to have a wise teacher, which happens, people are not necessarily all stupid idiots, they're wise people. We were very, very lucky, and our early life wasn't so painful. But if we went to the strongly indoctrinated teachers, they were indoctrinated according to their doctrines. So here we are. We are a result of continual indoctrination. Then we went into high school or university, and we learned to listen to professor. Professor said so, teacher said so. Then we go to work, boss said so. We sort of rebel, but we know it's hopeless. And there we are. And the habit is belief in domination is deeply built in us as individuals. But that is not yet enough to completely indoctrinate. We are and were indoctrinated. As I briefly said, after stop being dominated by suppression during our apehood age, when we became Homo sapiens, for a moment, suddenly indoctrination was not very strong. We had to be wise. We couldn't afford yet to be indoctrinated by this theory or that theory. No, we have to lived together as a group, and children were considered a treasure. First of all, they have lots of parents, which is how much better than two neurotic parents. And they were, like, child didn't play games because it knew, was intelligent, that games do not go. So instead of playing games, it was becoming intelligent and wise. And people loved children. And they knew that the continuity of this particular society depends on children. Children were their treasure. The rest, for us, children is nuisance. In our career, in our this, in our that. Well, they happen. There was completely different attitude. So they were not indoctrinated. They were primitive, of course. I'm not trying to make like it has a society. They loved their children. And children actually are treated like adults. And unfortunately, as I said, after this long, few 100,000 long journey of breaking away from our apehood, from our ape inheritance, I called, should be a film, a gene's revenge, animal gene's revenge. They took fierce revenge. And we came back to two fundamental aspects of our apehood. Domination, number one. If that is not enough, territoriality, number two. Territoriality was also among apes. One tribe of apes and another tribe of apes didn't try to avoid each other, and because otherwise they will fight about their bananas. So that's the way it is, and we continue to be indoctrinated. I am not going because the whole thing is already quite long by now. It's 12 minutes. I'm supposed to be at most 10. So I am ending, but I decided lots of these talks, and they will be short. So goodbye for today, and I hope to see you soon. Goodbye.